What's going on, guys, on this absolutely beautiful but very warm day out here in South Texas? Isn't it so much nicer me filming the RV and all this out here versus the storage facility, just walking around a bunch of RVs? I guess the perk to that was the fact that I had so many different types of RVs around me. If I reference to one, there's usually one sitting, maybe a couple feet away from where I was currently standing, so that was a nice thing. But, out here at the property, looking at the Coachman Brookstone, it made me start to think about a question that a viewer asked me, and it's kind of one that I think a lot of people getting into RVing ask themselves. So, this might be a good video for a lot of you who are considering getting an RV and wondering if the lifestyle is going to be for you. So hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, so in today's video, we're going to talk about a topic that I think just about everybody who is considering getting into RVing has to ask themselves. And that is, what should they do first, right? Before they've started looking at floor plans, before they've started exploring what options are out there, whether it's going to be to rent an RV to see if they love the lifestyle, or whether it's going to be to dive headfirst in and just get something that they can immediately start using. There's a lot of questions people ask themselves. So the question this specific viewer asked me was related to, should they rent an RV to see if the lifestyle's what they're looking for, or should they go out and just start looking for an RV to buy? Now, this is a really hard question to answer, and let me give you the reason for that. So if you go out with the intention of renting an RV to see if this is a lifestyle that's for you, if this is something you're actually going to use, first of all, it's a whole different approach to RVing. Let me give you an example. Typically, if you rent an RV, you're going to find that specific time that you feel you can use it. It may or may not be ideal. It may just be because you want to take an RV out to see if you enjoy it. It may not be during a holiday or during a period of time that most people RV, because again, you're kind of exploring the concept of RVing versus actually planning to RV, if that makes sense. And then also understanding the differences between RVing and camping, because there are some pretty big differences. So first of all, let's touch on the first one. So if you are looking to rent an RV to see if you even like it, if you even like the lifestyle, what you need to consider before you rent an RV is that by renting an RV, it's only going to give you a fraction of what the actual RVing lifestyle or camping lifestyle might be for you. Let me give you an example of that. So if I plan on renting an RV because I want to understand and feel out what camping or RVing is like, rarely am I going to have hundreds of floor plans to choose from. Shoot, I may only have one or two floor plans to choose from. I may have to pick between a class A, B, C, travel trailer, or fifth wheel, again, all dependent on what's available, and even what I have a truck that's capable of towing if it's a travel trailer or a fifth wheel. So when you plan on renting, you have to also plan on having a very limited selection of RVs that are available. And the RV that might be available to you may be an RV that's very old, maybe not in the best of condition, maybe not the ideal floor plan for your family or for the type of camping and RVing that you plan on doing. And if that's the case, then right off the bat, you're getting into RVing with a few negative points against it. And that's, when everyone crams inside of the RV that you're renting and it's not that clean, and, you have to kind of figure out where people are going to sleep, where you're going to put things. Well, you're not really applying RVing to your specific use case because you're not using an RV that you chose specifically for your family. Now, when you go to buy an RV, you're shopping dealership lots. You're walking through, dozens, maybe hundreds of units trying to find that perfect floor plan for your family. It's never going to be lived in. It's likely going to be new. It's going to smell clean. It's going to smell fresh. You're likely going to buy things for it that customize it specifically to your lifestyle, such as curtains or sheets or blankets or things like that. And then you have the ability to upgrade it with better tires, hitch, pin box, all these different things that you can use to make it more customized to you. Now, there is an argument to be made that a rental unit probably had all the quirks worked out of it, but I don't think that's entirely true of rental units. I think that's more true of pre-owned units versus rental units. Rental units are a profit-building, profit-making machine. They just want to rent them out as quickly as possible and do the bare minimum to get them ready for the next renter. So I wouldn't judge the quality of an RV on a rental unit. I definitely wouldn't, because oftentimes a rental unit may have more problems than a brand new unit. And I say that because everyone that gets into RVing realizes that they probably will have a few issues with their new RV they would have to work through. So all that being said, when it comes to renting versus buying, you run into that scenario of, well, what's available? Is it going to be right for my family? Is this the actual RV we would buy if we planned on RVing? And most likely it's not going to be. Most likely it's not going to be the floor plan you like. Most likely it's not going to be in the condition you like. Most likely it's not going to be as clean or upkept as you would want it to be versus one that you buy and you treat, the way you would treat your own product. So all that said, just understand that. It's hard to say, it's hard for me at least to recommend that someone go out and rent an RV to see if that's the lifestyle they're choosing, unless they're leaning more towards camping than RVing. So that really brings us to the next topic. What's the difference between camping and RVing? So camping is when you take an RV or you take a tent or you take some means of traveling with amenities out to an area that you plan on spending most of the time in that area doing things versus in your camper or versus in your RV. So that's essentially saying if we had a pop-up or if we had a small teardrop or if we had a travel trailer or even this fifth wheel, but we only planned on bringing this as a means to sleep and eat, and that's it. And really our entire goal is to not be in the RV, to spend time out with nature, spend time walking around, hiking, building memories, that kind of thing. If you are just into camping and that's your focus, just having a basic place to sleep, shower, bathe, whatever you need to do, and then the minute you wake up, the whole goal is to get out of the RV and go do stuff, then it's not as big of a deal to specifically say, okay, I need to buy an RV versus rent one to feel out how it's going to be. Because even if you rent an RV, you're likely not going to be spending much time in it. So you're not going to judge the RV as harshly in terms of, its features, its amenities, its technology, the comfort, all those different things, because it's not going to matter as much to you. Now, there's some people that kind of straddle the fence between camping and RVing, but let's quickly talk about RVing now. So RVing is getting something that's relatively luxurious, basically provides you luxury and amenities while you're out where you're going. You do plan on spending a significant amount of time outside, but you also plan on spending a significant amount of time inside your RV. You want to watch movies. You want to essentially have a mobile condo that you can take with you because you don't want to stay in hotel rooms. You don't want to stay in, bed and breakfast. You don't want to stay where other people have stayed. You want something that's your own. You bring your own stuff with you, and essentially you're bringing a home to a place that you want to visit. And in many cases, a lot of people get into RVing because they want to get closer to a family member, but they don't want to stay at a hotel, or their family member doesn't have the room for them to stay there, and they want a place that they can bring with them. So in our case, that's kind of how we treat our RV. We are more of those people that bring our RV out to a place that we want to go. We want to get out and visit. We want to get out and spend time, but we want to have a place that we are very comfortable, we can spend time in equally if we want to, and essentially go back to and feel comfortable inside whenever we go out and we plan on RVing, or whenever the day's wrapping up and we want to have just a really nice place with a lot of room to kind of kick back and and just relax. So we don't judge RVing just on the camping aspect of it. We judge it also on the RV aspect of it, and I think a lot of people are like that. There's people that will live in an RV full-time. A lot of YouTubers do it, and they travel around and their RV is their home. So it's not just a scenario where they're going to be, taking it out on the weekend. They live in it and they want it to feel like a home. They're already downsizing from something big to something smaller, and the whole goal is that they still carry a little bit of that luxury and convenience with them. And there's a lot of people that travel and have that same mentality, and that's how we do. That's why we have something like this and not a pop-up. So now let's talk about the folks who kind of straddle that line. Right? There are folks who want to get out and camp. That's the main thing that they want to do. But they also want to go to a place for an extended period of time and have the ability to live and really have that luxury with them while they're there. But the entire goal is to get out of their RV and explore the country. Get out of their RV and go to the beautiful area that they plan on being. Let's say you plan on going to Yellowstone. You plan on going to the Rockies. You plan on going to, different areas of the country that are just a wonderful place to be. You want to be there for a couple of weeks maybe, or maybe even a full week. You want to have the amenities of a hotel room. You want to have that luxury of space. You want to have that ability to separate, some of the things that may be going on in the RV. Maybe you have kids playing while you're trying to watch a movie and you don't want them all in one space. And if you're that type of family and you really get out to a place with the intention of getting out and exploring the area, but you still want kind of a condo or kind of a home environment, that's that hybrid type camping. And those are people who camp, they'll bring jet skis with them. They'll bring, paddle boards. They'll bring all sorts of things with them so they can get out and explore where they're at. But they also want the luxury of going into a home-like structure whenever they're done for the evening, or whenever they just don't want to go out. Maybe they're tired. They spent, the last 3 days exploring the area, and they just want to spend Sunday, or they want to spend Monday inside of the RV and, cook some food, watch some movies, and relax. That would describe a lot of folks. Those would probably make up a sizable majority of people with large RVs. They plan on going somewhere. They're going to stay there for several days, maybe a week or maybe a couple of weeks, and they want a place to live when they're not out doing the thing that they went there to do. And if you fall into any of those categories, it's completely fine. Nobody should and really can judge you on how you plan on using your RV, as long as it's something that you enjoy. So going back to the question, when somebody asks me, what should I do first? Should I rent one so I can see if we like it? Well, you can't ask that question unless you set the expectation on how you enjoy or how you plan on using your RV. If it's just a place to go back to and relax and spend time with the family before you go to bed, just to wake up the next day and get back out there again, then renting an RV might be a perfect way for you to trial out RVing and see if it's something for you. But if it's a place that you plan on going back to and spending more time, you really want it to be a place that has all the amenities of home and you want some space, then renting one might not be the best choice. Or if you do rent one, find the biggest one you can rent. Find one with probably the closest floor plan in the condition of a newer one that would probably emulate the type of RV you would buy with your family, because that would be a very important aspect of getting into RVing and wondering if it's going to be something for you. You have to make sure that you actually enjoy it, but you can't just say it is the RV or it is being out in nature. It has to be everything that you plan on using that RV for, and how that RV is going to affect you and your family when you're in it as well as when you're not in it. So these are really important questions to ask, and if you don't ask these questions and you just assume that any RV will give you the experience that you think you may have if you buy an RV, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed when it comes to the end of your RVing trip. Because as an example, let's say you go and you rent a unit, and the only unit they have is either a bunkhouse or a non-bunkhouse, and you have kids, so you rent the bunkhouse model. Let's say it has one slide, you have a couple bunks in the back, and it was a heavier unit than what your vehicle was really set up for. So first of all, you are squeezing people in, you're trying to find a good place for them, and then you're maybe towing it with a vehicle that's not ideal for towing that RV. So right off the bat, you're having some issues. You're having things that might stress you out a little bit more. You're experiencing RVing in a way that's not exactly positive. Well, then you get to where you're going and you realize you have to hook everything up, get everything connected. Maybe it's missing some parts. Maybe some parts are damaged. Maybe it's messy and stinky and just not in the condition that you feel it should be. So right off the bat, the process of connecting your RV is going to be a bit stressful, because it's not going to be exactly the same as if you have a brand new RV with components and things that don't smell or don't give you that very used feeling. And then let's say you get in your RV and you find some, I hate to say it, bed bugs or bloodstain marks or, other things inside of the RV because the previous renters didn't exactly take the best care of it and it wasn't all cleaned up properly. Well, then again, you're taking a trip that could otherwise be a very good, positive, fun, interactive trip, and you're turning it into one that is less so. So if you feel that renting an RV and possibly getting into a floor plan that isn't ideal for you and isn't in a condition that you would consider to be ideal would impact your trip and would impact how you feel about RVing, then renting an RV might be a great example of getting out there just to understand the concept of RVing, but I certainly wouldn't recommend you use that as a means to determine whether or not you should buy an RV, because that really wouldn't be the same type of comparison. You wouldn't be doing yourself a service. You would only be experiencing the negative aspect of it and not the positive aspect. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. I sure hope this addresses that question that I get asked so many times about, should I rent an RV just to see if it's something we like before considering buying one? And, you know, again, there's so many variables. There's so many things, and everybody's different. Everyone's unique, and they all have their own expectations. It really depends on what you plan on doing with your RV when you get it, what the goal is, what you enjoy doing. Once you can answer that question, you can then make a determination on if renting would give you that feeling that you think you're looking for. Because whether you rent or buy, there's still a lot of RV related stuff you have to do when you get where you're going and before you leave. That's not going to change, but the experience you go through while you're going through that and all the stuff that wraps around that experience can certainly change your opinion of RVing. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you again very soon.